Government has signed a 3-year pay deal with unions representing teachers, nurses and other state workers. This after 8 months of negotiations, which eventually averted a threatened strike. The marathon public sector wage negotiations are now finally over. COSATU unions signed on the dotted line last night, accepting government's offer of a 7% wage increase. But neither the COSATU unions nor the government has publicly communicated the terms of the agreement, and attempts to get a comment have been so far unsuccessful. Also, it's unclear whether independent unions that are part of the Independent Labour Caucus have signed or not. Well, Mongeni Mutua has been covering the story on the public sector wage talks for us. He joins us now on the line. Mongeni, good afternoon. Perhaps we can start by just sort of discussing exactly what has been signed and what hasn't. We know the strike has been averted, but of course there's those technical details that we are interested in.
Yes, David, actually, we spent the whole morning trying to establish exactly what was signed last night. We were all under the impression that the signing was going to happen today, but we woke up to the news that the signing had taken place last night. From what we've managed to establish so far, the COSATU unions and the independent unions, which are part of the Independent Labour Caucus, did sign the agreement last night. On the wage increase of 7%, 28% increase on the medical aid, and of course it's a multi-year agreement, meaning that there's going to be increases next year and the year after as well, increases of inflation plus 1% on the salaries, and the medical aid will increase by 5% over the next 2 years. Then there was the issue of housing, which has been a sticky issue, especially towards the end of the talk. What we understand right now is that COSATU unions also signed on the housing, that housing is going to be increased by 300 rands from 900 rands currently to 1,200 rands. But the independent union, under the banner of the Independent Labour Caucus, we are told they did not sign on the housing. They refused to accept the offer on the housing, so they did not sign for it. That's what we've managed to establish so far. The issue is, since the signing last night, there's been no communication, official communication whatsoever, neither from the government or the unions. There's been no statement. We would have expected that as the media would be invited when the parties finally decide to sign, to come and witness it. That did not happen. So it doesn't make a lot of sense as to why there's been no communication, or why this agreement is not being communicated publicly, or maybe some secrets around it. That's what we're hoping to find out very soon from some of the unions.
As we understand it, Mongeni, I mean, if you look at the reports this morning, both on radio and the newspapers, there is this feeling that the strike has indeed been averted. So what next now? Is it just the official pen to paper on those areas that you spoke about?
Pen has been put to paper last night, from what we are told, so the strike has been averted. Government is now going to go ahead and implement this agreement. But there is also some talk that the unions, even some of the COSATU unions, are not happy with aspects of the offer on housing, especially the issue that government says the increases or the housing allowance is only going to be given if in cases where you've got public servants that are married and their spouses and they are both work for the government. Only one of them will qualify to get a housing allowance, not both of them. So the unions feel that that is discriminatory and is unconstitutional, because the Constitution does not allow for people to be discriminated on any basis whatsoever. They feel that even if people are married and they both work for the government, they should get the benefits that are offered to employees of the state as individuals, because they are employed individually, not jointly. So there's talk that the unions could actually take that issue to court, to have the courts declare that practice or what the state wants to do as being unconstitutional.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Mongeni Mutua, you can follow that up for us, and I'm sure we'll have more from you in our later bulletins.